And if you're a supporter of the Second Amendment, how can you turn your back on the rest of the Bill of Rights? So hey, this is Mike with Mountain Boys. So I have a message for the 2A community today. And I need to start with talking about, kind of something that's pretty common here on YouTube, especially on the GunTuber channels. And I don't necessarily want to call out one creator specifically, but there is a lot of content, some of it very recent content, talking about WROL, and that means without rule of law, and kind of the fantasy land that these creators go into when they're talking about how they're going to prepare and prep for without rule of law situations. And they go quite down the rabbit hole. And the irony of this isn't lost on me right now, that these creators are coming out with more WROL videos when I would say we are already currently in the United States in a without rule of law situation. So when we have blatant and repeated violations of the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, the Eighth Amendment, up to the 10th Amendment, and then we throw the 14th Amendment on there just for fun. What does that say about the 2A community when we won't call out all of these other blatant violations of the Bill of Rights, plus the 14th Amendment with birthright citizenship? What does that say about us as content creators here on YouTube and Second Amendment advocates in general? Are you okay with people losing their freedom of speech, with the impacts that we've seen to freedom of the press right now? How about Fourth Amendment? Which those of you who don't know deals a lot with illegal searches and seizures. So what do we have when we have a government that is so obviously racially profiling people? Well, that's starting out on the wrong foot, and initiating illegal searches and illegal seizures. What about Fifth Amendment due process now? So what about people who have been deported from this country that are covered by our Bill of Rights and have been denied their due process rights? Is the Second Amendment community going to start to say something about this? It could also even go in, and this is you could make an argument either way, that this is a Fifth Amendment violation or a Sixth Amendment violation, with the administration targeting law firms who only represent their clients' interests, not their own. So is that a violation of due process, or is that a violation of the Sixth Amendment right to counsel? Well, you be the judge on that one. Okay, what about Eighth Amendment now? Even for people who had their due process rights violated and are being sent to horrific places, does that constitute cruel and unusual punishment? Well, I think it does. And I think cruel and unusual is the point here. Okay, so then we talk 10th Amendment, states' rights. Oh boy, the 2A community is big on states' rights. So what about, I hate to get into and say what about 10th Amendment, states' rights. The 2A community is huge on states' rights. Well, I could make some arguments that the 10th Amendment is being violated right now, too. Now let's move on to the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship, where it says all persons. It's pretty cut and dry language. Pretty cut and dry language right there in the Constitution. So, if you don't agree with anything I've said here or anything I've mentioned, and you call yourself a supporter of the Second Amendment, you need to check yourself right now. Especially for, those of you watching this who are in uniform or have been in uniform in the past. Oaths I took to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I didn't swear an oath to just support and defend the Second Amendment. I swore my oaths to support and defend the entire Constitution. This isn't something where we can just pick and choose. This is an all or none game. If we let the Bill of Rights just go by the wayside, well, what's to protect your Second Amendment rights here in the future? Please think about that, and please consider it. And if you think that this is just some liberal talking at you right now, well, then I would ask you to look at where you're standing from right now when you're saying that. If you are okay with the fact that we have masked federal agents sweeping through our communities, violating the Fourth Amendment and violating the Fifth Amendment, no matter who they're targeting, you should really, really stop and consider what you're supporting. This is getting frightening here in the United States right now. And I don't like drawing this comparison, but I'm forced to, that what's going on here now when we have an administration in power that rose to power again through grievance and fear and hatred, that's demonizing a segment of our population and starting to persecute them. What does that sound like to you? Well, to me, it's sounding a lot like 1920s into 1930s Germany. So, even on Fox News, there was a guy who's saying he was going to try to take back the term Nazi. Well, I'll tell you what. Here in the United States, we have a good track record of dealing with Nazis. It was called World War II. So, how do we get out of that mess? Well, I think we need to start by holding our elected officials to a higher standard. Hold them to the standard of upholding our basic Bill of Rights. I don't know what else to say and how else I can say it to break through to people that the seriousness of this matter right now, that if we let this go unchecked, where we're going to end up. I can kind of think of, three extreme scenarios here right now. And I'd say when I talk about the second one, I think we're already there, or well on our way there. So, first scenario is that the pendulum swings again, and the pendulum swings hard. And when that pendulum swings left, then those on the far left will try to enact an anti-gun agenda like we've never seen. Well, I won't say like we've never seen. I mean, all you have to do is look at California, Illinois, New York, even New Jersey in some respects, Colorado now, maybe Minnesota here soon. So consider that, that if the pendulum swings and the pendulum swings hard, and you've done nothing to hold your elected officials accountable for their violations of the Bill of Rights, how it could go that way. Okay, scenario number 2. And this is kind of where I think we're at right now, and more of the direction we're going, is of a techno-fascist police state. If you think we already aren't in a data-driven police state, when was the last time you hopped on a flight anywhere? Before you even get to go through security now, that, you know, your pictures are being taken for facial recognition software and facial recognition databases. Okay? How are our elected officials protecting and safeguarding our data, especially now when it comes to AI? Well, they just kicked the can on down the road, saying that, you know, states don't have any authority or any power to regulate AI for the next 10 years. Who's getting rich off that data? Who's using that data? You know, I'm not too worried about it because my face is already here all over the internet, so it doesn't mean as much to me. But there are a lot of people that, you know, don't really like that as much. Now, that's why I say we're already, you know, getting into that data-driven police state. Take that a step further. When you have people talk about, you know, changing the the makeup of our government and our system into a techno-fascist system, well, I'd say we are well on our way there right now, and that's scary. And that's scary. Okay, that's the second extreme option, which I think we're going down right now. The third option, man, I even hate to say this or even consider the possibility that it may go here, and I don't want it to. Definitely don't want it to. But it's out there as an extreme possibility right now that this could lead to civil war. You know? And why are we here? Why are we here? Because I hate to tell you this, the Russians won. Back in 2016, when the Russians started their misinformation and disinformation campaigns to a huge extent to influence our elections, well, that just drove the wedges of polarization even deeper into our society. So every time that you get angry about something that you see on Fox News, or you get angry at something you hear on talk radio or on a podcast, stop and ask yourself, what is the agenda of the people supplying that media to you? Are they trying to, again, you know, appeal to your hate, your fear, things like that? I'm even doing it to a certain extent right now too, because I'm trying to, you know, sound the alarm to a group of people who don't want to hear what I have to say. Don't want to hear it. But I it's my duty now. I mean, as a veteran, I can't stand by and let these things go unsaid. I can't. I hope you can't either. I really hope you can't either. But they need to be said.